What's up, guys? Welcome to week 2 of the Sync 60 Challenge. This is where we are going to create an achievable and realistic goal for ourselves and accomplish that goal by holding each other and ourselves accountable. And today we're talking all about time management. Now, this is a topic that I did a video on actually probably 6 months ago, and it's a full PowerPoint presentation. And not to toot my own horn, but it's probably one of the best things that I've ever done on my YouTube channel, and it's also available here in Sync Academy. So I'll link that below. Even if you watch that, you need to watch it again, okay? And if you haven't watched it, definitely make time to watch it. It's about 30 minutes long. But there's a lot of valuable information in there in terms of how to make sure that you're not just wandering aimlessly in your music licensing career or even in your music career in general. A lot of valuable skills in there, a lot of trial and error that I learned throughout the years of being very unfocused and undisciplined in the beginning of my career, and how I started to create more effective habits so that I nailed my goals, okay? So step one, or if you want to watch it after this video, that's fine too, but do make sure you take the time to watch that video. Really valuable stuff there, okay? So Sync Academy members, since this is now week 2, and we've just completed our first week, what you need to do right now is go to your progress chart, which I'll also link below, and let us know, did you accomplish your goal for last week? There's a little column that says accomplished your goal, yes or no. And that's all I want you to fill out, okay? Don't give me an excuse. Don't tell me no, oh, this happened. Oh, well, that happened. I'm not interested in any of those things. I just want to see who's a yes and who's a no. Okay, this is how we are holding each other accountable and how we can see, are we all nailing our goals? Okay, so make sure you do go ahead and fill that out. If you're not in Sync Academy, now would be the time to go to your social media posts and update your friends and family, colleagues, everybody. Did you accomplish your goal? Okay. If you did, it's easy because you can brag about it, and you should go brag about it. Go say that you had the 60-day challenge and you've actually nailed that first week's accomplishment for yourself. If you didn't, that's okay, but you need to own that, okay? And I do believe making that a public acknowledgement, I did not accomplish this week's goal, but now you need to prepare for how to play catch up, because now you have 1 week's worth of work you need to catch up on so you can still nail it for week 3. It's not over, okay? Just because you don't nail 1 week doesn't mean you should just give up on the entire challenge. That would defeat the entire purpose. Sometimes life happens, right? But you need to acknowledge that you didn't accomplish that goal, own it, right? And then move forward, okay? What can you do for the next week to catch up with what you didn't get done for the previous week? That's what we're doing here with the Sync 60 challenge. But today, I have actually one of our Sync Academy pros on the line with me. This is Trevor. And Trevor basically has been doing music licensing for his full-time job for basically as long as I have, okay, for over 10 years. So he knows a lot about the ins and outs of how to succeed with music licensing. And so he was generous enough to join me for this chat. And basically dovetailing with that time management presentation that I talked about earlier, we're going to talk about just real world examples of what we actually do in our day-to-day life to stay focused and to stay productive and to not get distracted and to not get lost in wormholes in our production time in our home studios, okay? So this is going to be some valuable real world actionable stuff that you guys can start doing in your lives to accomplish your 60-day goals, okay? So Trevor, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us. Before I bring you on board, I just want to let everybody know, basically the reason why I created the Sync 60 challenge is to start to train you guys how to do one important thing, and that is planning and preparing, okay? Most producers, most engineers, most musicians, anybody who's trying to do music full time, a lot of times they will just wake up in the morning, feel like making a certain kind of song and go make that song, and then not know why they did that, and then the next day they feel like doing something else, so they do something else, and then they get distracted, and then other obligations show up, and then they're not even making music anymore. So there was no plan, there was no sort of goal, there was no sort of plan preparing and laying out their accomplishments basically step by step. And so with Sync 60, yes, we are basically going through it right now. We are in the 60-day challenge right now. But once this is completed, I want you to take this skill set and move forward so that you can do this repeatedly. You can do this over and over again and create new 60-day goals for yourself, or 30-day goals, whatever you feel is achievable and realistic for yourself, okay? So the biggest thing about Sync 60 is planning and preparing, and that's really what we're training with you with. So Trevor, why don't you go ahead and speak on a little bit of your strategies and how you plan and prepare for your goals in the licensing business, maybe this kind of a 60-day goal format. What are some of your strategies for that?
Yeah, so everybody's different, and everybody has kind of what would work for them kind of situation. And I think that's always the first thing you start with, is try to figure out what what organization like practice works best for you. For me, I mean, I've tried everything. I've tried iPhone apps. I've tried a notebook. I've tried like a checklist type system. The thing, oddly enough, that worked best for me are sticky notes. I bought a whole bunch. I tried it out. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna throw all of what I've got going on the wall. There's a wall next to me that just has projects and information, everything I'm working on for the month. And that's basically what I do. Is I have one piece of the wall which is just kind of random stuff, and then one piece of the wall which is my month and everything that needs to be getting done in the next month or maybe 2 months or whatever. But it's always blocked into a certain time, usually a month. And what I do is I write down the projects, I write down any information, what I got to do, in separate sticky notes. So if if I have a project and it needs to be, 10 tracks, I'll put a sticky note and then 10 sticky notes underneath it. It's track one, track two, track three. And the reason for doing that is it gives me a good visual of what has to happen. What do I need to do? And then, and that visual allows me to think about it in the month and go, okay, in the month, like these are all the sticky notes that need to disappear off of my wall. And for me, because I'm visual, that works for me. I know other people, like I said, an app might work better, or a little notepad. I know a friend of mine who has a little notebook. It's like this big, and his entire life is in that notebook. And he has a red pen and a black pen, and he just reads everything he finishes. And then he can look back and see what he didn't finish. So everybody has their system. And so for me, going back to the sticky note thing, what really works for me is removing sticky notes, going up to that board after I finish something, taking it down and throwing it away and throwing it in the trash. Two things. One, I get to do that action. And for me, my brain, I don't know, it just feels cool to, throw away a sticky note. And two, my visual changes. I now look and I go, okay, I removed 3 sticky notes. This whole board looks different now because there's pieces missing. It looks less. It looks like I'm climbing, it's kind of like being at the bottom of the mountain. And as you get closer, you see the top more and more. It's the same with my sticky note thing. I see my calendar is shifting, but so is my board. And then if I'm getting closer and closer to the end of my calendar month, but my board isn't getting smaller and smaller, I'm doing something wrong, and I need to plan accordingly so that I can, so I can reach my goal of having a clear board by the end of the month. So that's kind of my personal, my personal deal. I color code thing. I have all these different colors and stuff. That's my personal way of doing it. But like I said, the best thing to do would be to find one system, and just the one system that works for you, and be honest about it. I mean, I spent a lot of time trying to force some app that I spent $10 on. I'm like, well, I spent $10 on it. I need to make sure this works. And it just didn't work for me. $5 sticky notes is perfect. And so figure out what it is that works for you, what you get results with, and then just do that and stick to it. And I, pun intended, and do that. And then I think that kind of structure really helps. Keeping organized and giving yourself an outlook view of time, like a visual of time, so.
I like that idea, and I do something somewhat similar, except for I actually do it completely on my computer, and I actually just make lists in a Word document, essentially. And so I have my longer-term goals, about the same as you. Sometimes they're a month, but sometimes it can be a 3-month or a 6-month, a longer-term project that I'm working on. But basically every day, I do create a new list of here's my, and I same as you, I don't color coordinate, but I do coordinate it, but I do have my sort of priority things at the very top, usually the things I got to get done right away. And then as the day goes on, I don't take a sticky note off, but I do delete it. And it actually does feel the same thing. There's something about actually being able to cross something off your list, get it done, so that now the list is much, much smaller. And you do get this sense of accomplishment. There's something very physical about it, and not just having a mental list of well, what do I need to do? Okay, yeah. And it's just all a mental checklist you're going through. There's something that gives you that encouragement by being able to accomplish one thing on your daily schedule and knock it right off of there, and so you can move to the next one. It does keep you focused. It keeps you also energized, and it gives you that boost. And just like what Trevor was saying, it feels like you're making progress and you're not just spinning your wheels and getting lost in a track or something like that. And you can do this actually within one track. So let's say you don't have many different projects, but you're just trying to create one track, right, for the next couple of days. You could put this down in terms of chord progression, main melody, drum beats, sound effects transitions. These can all be checklists. They could all be sticky notes. And as you knock out each one of those for your track, rip it off the wall. You'll be impressed and surprised how much that's going to actually energize you and make you feel more accomplished and more creative. Actually, it does do some crazy things for your brain for whatever reason that is. In some reasons I think that our brains are designed for physical work. Like when we Trevor and I were joking around this earlier, where when you go to the gym, it is obviously healthy for you to lift weights and do all this kind of stuff. But think about it, like, what did you really accomplish by like picking up this little weight, lifting it 20 times and putting it right back down? When you look back at the weight, you didn't move it anywhere. It's still sitting there. You didn't really do anything. Yes, you got your workout. But imagine doing the same kind of exercise building a brick wall, right? You're lifting up heavy bricks, putting them over there, connecting them and all that kind of stuff. At the end of that workout, you can actually see an entire brick wall that you created. So there's something there. There's a progress. There's a finished product. There's something that actually makes you feel like that was a good day's work, right? So in some ways, this is the intellectual version of that. We're building our brick walls, right? And making sure that we're keeping track of the progress as we go through it. So really good stuff there. Now, secondly, let's talk about distractions and eliminating distractions. And Trevor's going to talk a little bit more about also the fact that if those of you that are watching have families, you have kids, you have a wife, you have a bit more obligations in your personal life. I don't mean to say distraction like your kids are a distraction, but there is definitely going to be an element of having your interpersonal life and the people around you on board with this. So he's going to talk more about that. But my general idea with distractions is taking notes for the things, and mental notes, sometimes even physical notes of your day-to-day life, and start to realize what things are you doing like habitually that are taking you away from your studio, right? Taking you away from making music. It might be watching TV, playing video games, playing poker, whatever it is, right? What are the things that you might get a little release from? It might feel good to do it. I'm not saying cut out everything that makes you feel good, okay? That's not what I'm saying. We don't have to become monks. But are you maybe excessively participating in some of those activities? And when you do it too much, it starts to drain you a little bit. I mean, how many of you guys know what it feels like? You start off thinking, I just want to watch one TV show. Before you know it, 4 hours has gone by and you just feel like garbage. You're just sitting on your couch. You're like sinking into it. You're becoming a part of the couch. And your brain doesn't feel good. Your body doesn't feel good, right? You feel like a couch potato. So starting to take notes of those things, like what things basically are maybe you're participating in excess of. And then secondly, can you minimize those a little bit? Can you maybe cut out them all together? It might seem impossible in the beginning, but you'll be impressed and surprised how much you can actually live without when you just try it. Maybe just start to minimize some of those distractions. And you guys, for your own lives, know what those are, so we don't need to harp on those. But Trevor, why don't you talk to us a little bit about getting your family on board with your goals?
Yeah, just to like kind of add what you were just talking about first, like there is definitely a bit of self-honesty that has to come with like cutting things out that are, whether or not they're a good or a bad distraction. I mean, we're social animals. We want to do social things. We're interested in a lot of stuff, but we can get lost in that stuff. So it's good to really understand yourself and be like, okay, like I do need some social interaction, but do I need to go out every night? Like that kind of stuff, like really understanding, I think is really big in helping this kind of stuff. Cause you look back, I'll look back at like what I do, like work wise, as opposed to social wise. And I definitely remember the work stuff a lot more, at least like the end result of the work stuff, because like I have tracks and catalog and all that stuff, but like I don't have like that night with my friends doing stuff for me down later in the life. But anyway, so family stuff. So one of the things, and this is a really tough one for a lot of people to do. I mean, it was tough for me too, is to really sit down with your family, like depending on how old your kids are, sit down with your wife or your husband or, whatever your family structure looks like, and have a true honest conversation and really get them on board. Because if you're you're working on stuff and your family doesn't believe in it, or they don't like that you're doing it, or you locked yourself into your studio for 3 hours and they're upset about it, like it's not unknown to you. And so you're sitting there working, but also thinking about the fact that the people in your life are not happy with you. Like that alone, like you're not really helping anybody either. You're not, like, you may be in there for three hours, but you're probably not really being very effective. And really sitting and having a conversation with the family, going and coming up with a plan, like it's a give and take with both of you. Like I, talk to my wife, my kids, and I'm like, look, there's work time. And then when there's family time, it's family time. Like we're killing it. We'll go to the zoo. We'll go to, like, I make sure that that's the promise on my end to go, okay, I have to disappear for a little bit. But when I come back, like I'm focused on you. I don't show up, but then I'm on my phone, or I like run to go answer an email. Like I, separate the two and make that promise, and it doesn't have to 100% be that way, but, make a promise where, um, this is how it'll be. And I promise that it'll be this way that we agree upon. And I think that the family and you can, if you can come up with some sort of, solid, like, okay, I'm going to promise this, you guys promise, and we all come to a certain agreement, and then you stick to that agreement. It allows the work time. Maybe your work time total is less, but you definitely get a lot more done when it's everybody's happy, when it's structured to a point, like even to, I mean, I've done it to the point where I'm like, okay, exactly 2 hours. And for me, side note, I think 2 hours is a really good sweet spot. You can get a lot done in 2 hours. No Facebook, no family, no nothing. Just shove it all out. Focus 2 hours. You can get a lot done. You'd be surprised. And to set a timer, go, okay, when the timer goes off, I don't think about any of this stuff anymore. I go to the family and I'll only think about them, and then come back and go kind of bounce back and forth. I know we have jobs and stuff like that. So there's that kind of stuff that's, goes into the equation, but really coming up with a plan and making promises and making compromises to actually understand your situation and then plan accordingly, I think is such a big deal, because like I said, you're sitting there, and if your family's not on board, you're not really in it, and you slowly fall out of it. It just becomes a problem. And I think really making that foundation happen first and then going, I think is really important. And it's helped me, I have young kids and a wife and stuff, and it's really helped me get a lot done. And I feel like I've worked I've worked less hours than I have in the past, because it's been really focused time working. And I think that that's like a bonus to that as well.
I like that concept, because I think that's one of the big reasons why a lot of producers probably watching this are not achieving what they want to achieve, is because Trevor and I are not supermen. We don't have like the ability to slow down time. We don't have any special powers here, guys. The one, if you call it a special power, is exactly what he just described, is the ability to get everybody in your life on board, zero all of the distractions out, and be able to focus on one specific goal and get it done. Most of you watching this right now don't do that. I can guarantee you, most of you guys doing that right now, start with a goal, give it a shot. Somebody knocks on the door, you get a ding on your phone, and then it's just you're going somewhere else, right? You just get distracted and you try something else, and you're not really focused on what you're doing. Especially with the time management presentation that I'm recommending you guys check out. That is one of the big reasons why I think a lot of people are not achieving what they want to, is just because of this focus issue, that there's just either too many things at once grabbing your attention, or maybe you don't have the focus. You don't have that one specific goal to go, yes, you're focused today on this track, but then tomorrow you're going in a completely different direction. So it seems like you're focused, but you're really actually taking multiple directions simultaneously. So there needs to be the micro focus of what you're doing, like Trevor said, for the next 2 hours, but then the macro focus, what am I doing for the next 60 days? And again, that's what we're doing here with the Sync 60 challenge. So really good stuff there, guys. I hope you are certainly doing that with your friends and family and loved ones, and talking to them and showing them your vision. This is what I want to accomplish. This is what I want to do, and getting them on board with that. Last but not least, let's talk about creating maybe some shortcuts in your workflow. Some of the ones, I made a little list here, so these are sort of my go-to ones. And for all of you watching this, you should be doing all of these things, okay? If you're not doing even one of these, you're probably wasting a lot of time, okay? So number one, DAW templates. So I don't care what program you're using, Ableton Live, Pro Tools, Logic Pro, Fruity Loops, you can create templates in these programs. And if you have certain maybe two or three kinds of styles or genres that you're working with, you should be creating templates for those that have preloaded sounds, preloaded effects, preloaded everything. So when you are inspired and when you need to be making music, you don't have to go digging through your crates to find that stuff. It should be all there, pulled up right away. And another one would be mixing and mastering presets. So this is one of those things that I do when I'm going into my mastering process. I basically have preloaded a chain of mastering plugins that I use and they're genre specific based on, if it's hip hop, it's trap, it's EDM, whatever I'm working on. It doesn't mean that I just click paste and I'm done. I obviously go through and make the minute changes that I need to. But I will rarely just pull up a list of maybe 3 or 4 different mastering plugins organically and try something new every single time I start mastering a track. In this business, you really don't have the luxury to do that. I think once in a while, it's a good idea to pull in a new sound effect or pull in a new plugin and try something new. But on a day-to-day basis, consistently, you need to have your go-to sounds that you know how to use, you know these plugins inside and out, and you know that they work, and just have access to them instantly, okay? Organizing sound files. This is a really big issue. We actually just released this tutorial in Sync Academy. So for those of you that are in Sync Academy, watch that. Actually, Trevor himself taught that one. And he had to become a master at this stuff because he not only actually has to mix and master other people's tracks, but he produces his own tracks as well. So being organized has been his like lifeblood. If he's not organized, he can't keep up with the workflow that he's doing. So definitely check out that tutorial. Keyboard shortcuts, right? Copying and pasting, getting access to your scissor tool, getting access to your crossfade tool, not having to go find it, in the drop-down menus, being able to instantly maybe set these shortcuts yourself, or whatever it is you need to do to get to these tools as fast as possible. And of course, you're probably not going to use every single tool that your DAW offers you, but there's going to be at least 3 or 4 of them that you go to like every single day, all the time. And make sure that it's one button away or it's a couple of buttons away so you can get to this stuff super fast. And last but not least, I definitely want to talk about reference tracks, okay? This is such an important thing that, especially if you're new to this industry, you're new to licensing music, and you're starting to like, all right, I want to make a licensable song and I want to get it accepted by a music library, or I want to create a whole album. Maybe that's one of your goals actually here for Sync 60. If you're not using reference tracks, you are absolutely wasting your time, guaranteed. Because what you're going to do is, if you don't have a roadmap in front of you, and that's really what a reference track is, it is your GPS map for how to navigate this particular sound or style that you're trying to go for, you will start making creative direction choices. You're going to go left field, right field, you're going to go up and down, you're going to put sounds together that don't work together, you're going to have 4 bars that don't even sound anything like the next 4 bars. It's going to sound like a schizophrenic mess at the end of it, okay? Reference tracks, reference tracks. If you're not using them, start right now. Don't create another track unless you have a reference track. If you don't know what it is, it just means that you found an example of a high quality, licensable track that's well produced, well mixed, well mastered, that's competitive, that you feel, yes, I would be very happy to have my sound on par with that. Either pull it into your DAW session if you can get the sound file. If not, just pull it up in your browser. You don't have to download the actual audio file to use it as a reference. Just pull it up and have it available that you can A/B test what you're doing and what they're doing to get sound ideas, to get melodic progression ideas. Of course, big disclaimer, don't rip off anybody's ideas, don't use their exact chord progressions or exact melodies, but you can certainly follow in the spirit of those reference tracks. And then, of course, at the very end, mixing and mastering. Is your track on par with them? Is it at stereo spread as well as them? Is your low end muddy and their low end is kind of cleaner? You can actually hear the kick and the bass separately, but in your mix, it just sounds like a jumbled mess down there. So those are some of the sort of key things in terms of creating shortcuts in your workflow. And of course, all of these are included with Sync Academy. We have tutorials on all of these subjects. So, Trevor, what can you add to this subject?
Yeah, while it's fresh in my mind, on and now sorry, forget it. The reference track thing. I have a video talking about reference tracks. I have a video about starting a track, like ideas of how to just start a track creatively or whatever. And one of my concepts is to take a reference track, throw it in your DAW, mute it, or no, well, not mute it just yet, but you cut it up into the sections that it is, like intro, verse number 2, that's different, chorus and all this stuff. You cut it up, you make them all different colors so that you can visually see, all the different parts. Throw it at the top of your session, mute it, and leave it just basically as a layout to then build your track with and go, okay, I'm going to copy that layout. There's a verse here, then a chorus, and then there's a bridge right here, then there's this, then there's this. I'm just going to do that. And just that alone, not even listening to the song or whatever, just using it as a layout is a really big deal for just creative wise of, I know this song has been licensed. They like the layout. Somebody out there likes the layout, so they use the song a lot. So anyway, so that's one quick note on what you said. Something that it's funny you brought up templates, because I actually am not a template person, but I want to be. For almost my whole career, I've never really done templates. I just pull it up blank and just start going. And actually, I here have a sticky note of a template I want to build for myself. And my goal is to have it done so that March I'm using this template, or this next month this month I'm using this template, because I know that it can be efficient. I'm just not doing it. I just haven't really done it. It's kind of out of my comfort zone because I'm always like, no, I just want to start fresh and clean. But this time around, this month I'm going to build a template, throw in all the things I always use anyway. I'm like pulling stuff up all the time. I got to go find the plugin, throw it in the thing, like just have it all there ready to go. Like I use this glitch thing called Stutter Edit, and enabled saying that you have to like rewire it a certain way and stuff to like get it. And I do that like 4 times in a session. Like, why would I do that? Why don't I just do it once and then it's in the same anyway? So that's like a goal of mine, that I want to like actually have a good template. And I know it's a good idea, which is why I have a sticky note for it. But yeah, some of the other things though about like you mentioned my video about file organization, like my samples, like my drum kits and my like loop sounds and all that kind of stuff. The way that I usually organize them is I just kind of go by genre. Since I'm in the TV and film thing, like some people just do hip hop, right? Like some people just do hip hop or that genre, or some people do EDM and stuff. And so everything is going to be EDM, and then you can kind of break it down. But what I usually do is I just have everything by genre, because at any moment I'm working on a hip hop project, so I'm just going to stick to the hip hop folder, or I'm going to stick to the EDM folder. But then I go like genre, and then from genre I kind of separate it depending on, like, EDM has so many different genres. I might have like a future bass folder or a house folder. And I just kind of like folder it down to what I need, um, based on parameters that are important, like genre. And then if I really want to get into it, like I could separate them by key and stuff. But usually it just goes genre, subgenre, then instrument, um, and it usually just stays at that point. But that alone saves you a bunch of time, because if you have samples come, and they usually come as like a name, like X company's dope drum beats, and it's like, well, what does that mean to me? Are they dope EDM drum beats? Are they dope? I don't know. So renaming them and kind of getting them organized to where I know what I'm looking at, and I don't have to waste time looking at them on certain projects, is a huge deal, because it's not about saving time as much as it's about not wasting time, which I guess are the same thing. But having things organized in a way so that you're not wasting time sifting through stuff you don't need to sift through. Then there's in the DAW stuff, like knowing, like you said, knowing the keyboard shortcuts, learning maybe to create your own. I just learned this macro stuff to save versions, where I just hit a button and it saves a new version with a number on the end, and all I have to do is hit the button. Like, that saves me time, so like I can just make these different versions of my sessions with one button, and then I don't have to like save as, give it a new name. Like, it's just numbers, and like that just saves time. So like that, I use this mouse. I've used this gaming mouse. It has like buttons on it. These buttons have tools assigned to them, like scissors and crossfade tools, stuff like that. So I don't have to it's even quicker because it's just my thumb, which saves time there. I use a mouse, which is way faster for me than using like a trackpad or something, or even like those ball mouses. A lot of people use the ball mouses, where the ball, you're rubbing on the ball and moving the thing around. Those are pretty cool, but like for me, the mouse, I'm just super efficient with just click, 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 move, move, click, click, with the mouse, like a video game. And I feel anyway that those little things constantly save just little micro pieces of time that all add up, where, if I'm clicking fast, and I do like 7 actions on a different type of mouse or trackpad, those 7 actions maybe are 2 minutes instead of 1 minute or whatever. Saving that amount of time over and over and over again really saves you time. And keyboard shortcuts, really understanding your DAW and what to do, like all of that stuff, just being super efficient and trying to, this is problem solving at the end of the day, is looking at your day and what you're doing and going, okay, can I cut any of the fat? Can I save just a little bit of time, even if it doesn't feel like it's a lot of time? Like, it doesn't feel like when I pull up Stutter Edit and then throw it in and then reroute it, that's only like maybe 5 to 6 seconds. If I'm going slow, 10 seconds. But I do that every time, and I've worked on hundreds of tracks. Like, that adds up to like hours, and like, so that plus all the other stuff that I'm doing, like, so understand, like, being aware of that and understanding it and then trying to figure out how to cut that fat out, I think is like a big deal for time management. It makes that 2 hours, like I said before, a lot more of hard work and not wasting time.
Yeah, and I think also what you're driving at there, that's some really good stuff there, is also separating out between auditioning sounds and creating music. I think these are two things that so many producers mistakenly put together. So they want to create a new song, and then they also want at the same time, let me go through 300 different kicks till I find the right kick. By the time you find your right kick, your ideas kind of morphed, and maybe you've lost the motivation. So I don't want to say that you should basically, create templates and then never experiment with new sounds. But you should have you should have sessions in your week or maybe in your month where it's like, all right, I'm not creating music today. I'm just finding new sounds, right? I'm going to go buy some new sample packs. I'm going to go mess with a new synth, get a new preset pack, whatever it is. And I'm going to now make sure that I can get those really quick. And I'm going to audition them all here. I'll go through those 300 kicks. I'll find the 20 that I think are the best, the most impactful or whatever it is that I need from them. And I'll put them on a short list so that when I'm in creation mode, I can get those super quick. And I think I made that mistake probably the first 6 years of my career is just I was sampling sounds as I was in the creative process. And that is, I mean, it's like a painter who doesn't really have all his paints ready to go and he has this idea and his vision. It's like, well, I don't have the right green. Let me go ahead and mix this and mix that. As opposed to having all of your colors on the template or on the palette right here ready to go so that your vision can be uninterrupted. So you're just, no, I know I need this. And you're going right to the idea. So that's one of those separation things that I think will definitely, just like Trevor was saying, save you so much aggravation. And also, you guys, everybody's watching this has had that feeling where you were motivated, you were excited, and then you got stuck in sample hell. You couldn't find the right sample, you couldn't find the right template, whatever it was, the synth preset, and then you just lost the motivation, the track starts to fall apart, and it's an unfinished just mess, right? And you never get back to it. So you can cure that absolutely right now if you start to separate those two processes. So thank you so much, Trevor. I really do appreciate you sharing your knowledge today. So stay tuned, guys. Next week, we're going to do healthy habits. So I'm going to basically share with you guys some of my personal healthy habits for making sure that I have higher energy, better creativity, better motivation throughout the week and throughout the months and years I've been in this industry. I've harped on it so many times before, but all of this stuff that we're talking about is kind of out the window if you're eating crappy foods, not sleeping, not exercising, sitting indoors all day, never getting any sunshine. You're just going to feel like garbage and you're not going to want to do anything. So going down to the fundamentals of your health, right? I'm not going to be some sort of a health nut here and try to kick you guys through boot camp. But, this is easy stuff that anybody can basically do, and it's not going to cost you tons of money or anything, that kind of thing. But just to be a little bit more conscious about how you are living your life and how your day-to-day habits are actually affecting your career and your work. And if you don't have your health, you've got nothing else at all. So it's really important stuff to consider. So we'll be back next week and we'll be talking all about healthy habits. So thank you guys for participating and keep up the hard work. This is going to be a fun journey. And I hope all of you that set your sight on a 60-day goal actually do accomplish that. And I hope that the 60-day challenge actually helps you do that.